lots of times your stuff is on the top. You know, you ride along the top. But there were a few times I saw you digging on the bottom. I mean, like the bottom bottom. Like you'd go up to these guys that were running the bottom, and you'd be like, "Excuse me," and you would somehow, some way, get to the left of them.
Yeah, just like we see in every race. If we look at the NASCAR Pig Free Series or the Coca-Cola Series now, actually, sorry. You can't go wherever the guy's in front of you. You need to find a way to, get around them. And when you're so much quicker than the guy in front, you need to find a way to, get around. And no matter what the track is or what line it is, you need to try to find a way to go around because as a racer for a championship and especially a world championship here and when you're running for a championship you need to make those spots. Every position are very important, and so also heat races, you have points in the heat races, and if you finish second or third in a heat race it shows up at the end of the season. So we need to be on our A game, and some tracks like Williams Grove, Volusia, where the bottom is there and you can run it. This year at Williams Grove, we had a bit of a tougher a race. Track they reset the track before the feature and the warm up, and we had to run the track in, and the track was a bit tackier there at the beginning, and tacky tracks are not my favorites, so I had a tough time, but we came back with a third place finish.
Yeah, how about that? And there were a couple races, I don't remember which ones, where you didn't do so well in the heats, and so in the main you were like coming from the back, but you were able to come up through there, and that actually was kind of a big chunk of watching the show is kind of watching you come through the field. Uh, is it safer on the bottom or is it safer on the top when you're doing stuff like that?
It really depends. When you have tracks like Lernerville where there's no outside walls, the outside is not as safe as the bottom. If someone drifts up the racetrack and you're outside and you're stuck in between, well, you're gonna go over the racetrack, and you really need to go and as what you think is best to do. Some tracks it could be even running the bottom or the outside could be even as a safe way to run the racetrack. Sometimes if you start the features, you start on the bottom. Well, you're gonna have an easier time to go around them because they're battling each other out. They're not looking down the bottom, and I'm coming up down the bottom, and I'm like, hey, I'm here, so I'm taking the spot, and that's how it goes most of the time.
All right. Well, it's been a great season to watch again. The show you guys are putting on. A lot of good drivers too that to keep you honest. A bunch of guys you had to beat for it. So congratulations on that. Let's change subjects a little bit and talk about coronavirus and how that's affected what you've been doing this spring. Uh, my understanding is World of Outlaws has turned to you. A lot of those drivers as they came on to iRacing looking for your assistance. So how did all that start?
Well, with the virus and everything what's going on in the world right now, a couple weeks back, Will Valas reached me out and the team to help those guys out. As a world champion team, we try to and help the Will Valas guys. A lot of them. We talk about Brad Sweet, Logan Trueheart, even Kyle Busch, a guy from NASCAR everyone knows about. So. We helped those guys get faster and faster on the dirt side. So it was a nice time to be able to help these guys out. And like we saw in the the national television races for the dirt side, they did very well. And as a team, myself, we were very proud to be able to help these guys out. And I'm sure they absolutely liked it.
So tell me about the mechanics of doing that. Do you get in a hosted room with these guys and are you watching from above, like one of the cameras, and telling them what line to run? I mean, how does that work?
Well, what was working is, we got in a hosted server, and let's say an hour or two, and we would get together and just work on the car, the garage, the setup of the car, and make sure it was stable for their liking, their driving style, the lines on the racetrack, how you need to go in the corner, and because yes, iRacing is very very realistic, but there's some stuff that it needs to be taken another way around to be able to be fast on the racetrack. So Yeah, it was basically a no-sit server, and we were helping these guys out. And sometimes like Mike Manny and these guys out, we were going in the server with their races and helping them out in the race. So that was actually awesome to be able to help these guys in the television race.
Yeah, very cool. Now, these guys have probably seen your face before because you'd gone to the championship awards finale where they presented you a trophy and whatnot. And now they probably really know who you are, besides just that face on the stage, working with you in iRacing. Perhaps that might lead to some inroads to maybe a ride in the future, huh?
Yeah, we hope so. We already have our 360 operation that we're trying to make ourselves run. It's tough to to have the partnership to go with and have the funds to go race. But we're trying to do our best, and hopefully it can lead to an opportunity to be able to race with these guys. And our goal is to race World of Outlaws one day. And I'm still young, I'd say, but time goes fast, and we need to try to get going here. And with what's going on in the world right now, it's tough to go across the borders as we're living in Canada. So to go race in the U.S. is a little bit tougher for us.
Now, one video I saw recently, you put up your first time in a 410 sprint car over at 5 Mile Point Speedway. Tell us what you think of being in a 410 compared to these other cars you're running.
Well, it's a completely different animal. The 410 sprint car is almost 1,000 horsepower, straight in front of you, and the drive shaft is only about 2 foot. So it's tough to drive these cars, but it's completely different in a 360. When you get on it, you get on the throttle, it might even lift up the front wheels. And that track I practiced on with Coleman Gulick's 14 car. The track was dry, a lot of bumps and everything, and the car was a bit set up for a lower gear in the car, so the car wouldn't rev as much. And it was a bit easier to drive, but at the same time, for first time, last year in the car, it was tough to drive it. But I was doing good lap times compared to Coleman's. And I'm confident, if I have the shot to drive a 410 again, I'll do great.
Okay, and so are you guys set to go back real racing now that all these restrictions are kind of being lifted?
Well, with the borders, I think they're only reopening the 28th, so we still have time to get ready and everything, and we're still trying to get partners to go, with us. We already have, CSI Shock, Biologic App, and everyone else that helping us out, but we still need more to be able to go on and try to make a couple races in the tour. We might start racing here in Ontario, Canada, so we might do the SOS sprints and everything. So instead of going with the ESS now, New York State. So that will be just a start to be able to get back going.
Okay. Now let's talk about iRacing dirt a little bit. I mean, you're obviously a fan of it, and you race it all the time. And a year ago, it was fairly new, the whole dirt scene, and now here we are a year later. Can you tell our listeners what has happened with the dirt iRacing in a year? I mean, what's been added? For example, the do not count cautions. What do you think of that?
I think it's an awesome feature. We've been waiting for that for a long, long time. Like we've seen the real dirt races, there's no caution laps. The caution laps does not count. So you have plenty of racing left. You don't waste 3 laps under the caution every time there's a caution. So let's say there's 30 laps in the feature, and you have 3 caution. That's already 9 laps gone in the window. So with that feature, as we're gonna see in the late models World Championship, that's gonna make it for a lot of interesting stuff, a lot of actions on the racetrack, a lot more laps to be able to race on. And I think it's a great feature. But overall, dirt iRacing has gone from long ways. It's just so much better. And every build they're trying to improve it. The track states and how the track wears in. How many minutes it needs to take to have the track wears in with how many cars and everything like that. And as we saw in the World Championship in the sprint cars this year, even with reset before the races and everything. We saw some awesome races, a lot of lines on the racetrack, and you could go in the slick and be as fast as the guys on top sometimes in some tracks. So I feel like it's a great way to have some great racing and iRacing, and everyone that works on the dirt side is doing an awesome job.
Yeah, they certainly are. And I'm not a dirt racer, but I dabble. I run the street stock, in a few of the free dirt tracks. And I dabble. And I'm not very good, but I can get around there without hitting the wall. And it's pretty fun when you get that thing full throttle and just kind of hang it out. And if you find the right line, you never have to lift. And it's pretty fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we see in the World Championships, the lines are very important, and in qualifying, if you make one mistake, just like every World Championship, in qualifying, it's very important for track positions. Um, if you make a little mistake, you're done. It's tough to come back out in the back, and it happens a couple times. It happened a couple of times to me in this year, and stress and trying to run for a second championship. But I guess we got it done anyways.
All right. So let's look at the future now that you've won your second championship. It's week 13. What are you looking forward to in this new build specifically? And, what are you going to run, this summer besides the dirt stuff, obviously?
Not a lot of other stuff than dirt. That's mainly our concentration. That's what we're doing. For week 13, I tried the BMW M4 GT4. I think that's what it's called. So I tried it at Lime Rock. Did a 13-week race. I think I finished third or fourth. So it's a pretty awesome car. The old stock car 87 NASCAR cars. So I had fun with that. But I need to go back to testing late models and what's more important for us as a team and as for myself. So. I feel like they iRacing brought out some awesome, cool stuff. Well, not software, but cars and everything. So, with the Formula One cars and the Indy cars and D lights, or I don't exactly know what cars they got out too, but I think they did a pretty good job again. I think it's a massive build.
It is the biggest build ever, I probably would say, but we're going to be going through that in this recording. Alex, glad to have you. Let's finish up with a final question. One we asked you last time, and I kind of want to see if it's changed over the year. What is your most memorable iRacing moment?
Well, I'd say it's the first World Championship, last year, and this year too. I mean, both World Championships, that last race, very intense. But when we won it, it's great to be able to win it once again, and it's tough to take it in. I still don't, I can't believe it still that we won it twice, and it didn't happen a lot of times in iRacing. That guys, won a few times back to back, and I feel like we achieved something that's pretty big for us, and as a Canadian too, I think there's no one in Canada that done that. So I feel like it's so huge for us and for our country. So I'm proud for that, and that is my most memorable moment. I think nothing else beats it.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a lot of proud Canadians on this team too that you're representing. So well done. Yeah, I think you had to finish 10th or better in that final race. I guess it must have been a little bit nervous, huh?
Yeah, we took it easy with guys, trying to be rough with us. We've seen a couple of races where I've got spun out and everything like that, and I don't like to talk about that because it's not fun at all. But it happens, and people are just trying to get the championship away there, and we worked for it. That's for sure. We did everything we had to do, and I think we did our best, and it worked out. So last race we just took it easy, and two guys was battling out right in front of us for a championship, and our internet or the server ran out, and we almost got out of the server, kicked out of the server because of the internet or server, and we got lucky there last race, and I'm proud to be able to say we won the second one. So.
Yeah, well done. All right, so tell our listeners how to follow you. I know you're on the Twitter at Racing Bergeron. Are you doing the Twitch or anything else?
We don't do Twitch. Maybe one day. But everyone can follow us, on Instagram, Team ABR Esports, Facebook as well, Team ABR Esports or Racing Bergeron. So that's our tags for the team and myself. We have Jason Nygaard and Rebecca on the team. So we're a three-person team, and we're trying to get better and better, and hopefully we can do good stuff again in late models.
Well, very good. Congratulations, Alex. Thanks for coming on. I'm going to pre-invite you to come on next summer when you win the third one.
We're not there yet, but hopefully, we're gonna work hard for it, and as every year, we're gonna put in the time and the work, and as a team, we're gonna be able to do great again, I'm sure. A bit of luck as well, and it's gonna go absolutely fine, I'm sure.
Okay, very good. Alex Bergeron, thanks for coming. Have a good one.
Thank you. I'll need to go off here and start practicing for late miles, but I appreciate you guys having me and you, Mike, and everyone. I appreciate you guys' time to have me on, and hopefully next year I can be back on it.
Okay, very good. We're happy to have you. Take care.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we're going to talk Coke race with Evan Pasoko. Evan, are you there?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks for coming. So it feels like it's been a long time since we've had the race. I'm like, where did we race? Oh yeah, it was Atlanta.
Yeah, it feels like we've been away for so long, and we've got like a month until our next points race with the All-Star race squished in here. But it was good to get back to it at Atlanta. And admittedly, I'm not the biggest fan of Atlanta, and maybe it's just I can't drive on it. But I wasn't really sure what we were going to expect. But we ended up having a really good race with a lot of green flag racing, and of course, a very notable race winner when it was all said and done.
Yeah. So first, with a different date. I mean, tell us why that happened.
Yeah, so basically, when NASCAR obviously started to schedule a lot of races, the Truck Series race was in our normal Tuesday slot. In NASCAR is the one who made the call because we saw this as well, actually, the Thursday when the Cup Series race was delayed, that they postponed the eNASCAR heat race. So basically, they just don't want any of the online stuff going up against the real life stuff. So when it was scheduled for trucks on Tuesday, we got bumped to Friday, which was an open night. And we mentioned, I think, on the broadcast that I think it was kind of fitting because, of course, on Tuesday night, it was an iRacing truck in Victory Lane at Charlotte. But yeah, it was just basically for scheduling.
Yeah, what a moment that was for Chase to get iRacing its first major win. But yeah, so we ran Friday. So let's talk about it. Atlanta, at the beginning, it was a 3-car breakaway for the lead. Lap 25, it was Colin Keister leading Vincent and Brad Davies.
Yeah, and these races at these intermediate tracks, and Atlanta's one of the faster ones, but I mean, you think that they can go green off the bat, and we were talking with some of the drivers post race and our top three and whatnot, and they were saying, listen, I thought it was going to go green at that point. They thought that that was going to kind of be where this race opened up and ran away with it. Of course, we saw pole sitter Corey Vincent only lead for a moment there because you mentioned Keister and Davies got up and into the mix, and of course that was a shorter run, wasn't going to be the only green flag run that we saw, but we were kind of starting to do our fuel numbers at like lap 35 on, hey, is this going to go green? And of course we did end up getting a yellow.
Yeah, so green at the beginning, caution lap 37 for Matt Busa. One of those things where he was just kind of hung out and they were just kind of going by him on the inside, and there was an opening and he was going to try to squeeze in line and there was enough to get in there, but not really, and he kind of got tagged and boom, that was it.
Yeah, it's that kind of pseudo pack that forms with this package and especially at Atlanta, is really nobody was having much luck on the outside, especially really early on. So it was, you get up there, you're probably going to lose 3-4 spots with how close the cars kind of stay together in the opening 20-25 laps of a run. And yeah, I mean, it just goes to show you how important it is that guys are going to be, making those moves. Kind of same deal with the whole Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott thing at Darlington a couple of weeks back, is getting in that preferred line is critical, and just wasn't room.
It's exactly like what Kyle Busch did. He was just trying to get in there, before he lost it, and he just mistimed it. It was just the same thing with Matt Busa. Second caution was just laps later, spinning in the middle of the pack. Brad Davies, who got smashed by Ryan Lusa. Lusa had really nowhere to go in that one at all. Several others got damaged as well.
It's been tough for Ryan. A couple of weeks back, it was the Ryan Lusa show, 3 wins in a row, looking to break history, and since then it has been a string of poor results for him, and of course has cost him the championship lead. He had taken it away from Bobby Zelensky. Now Keegan Leahy is our points leader. So Lusa was so good that he can afford to have these 2-3 week periods of a bad stretch. But do it now as opposed to later in the season. Somebody who really can't afford that kind of similar luxury is a Brad Davies, who, because of this rough night, he's now closer to the bubble spot. I think he fell down to 7th in the points. So it hurts Davies more than Lusa, but of course notable because those are 2 of your top 8 guys.
Right, exactly. So the next caution, lap 48, Keegan Leahy was digging on the bottom, and he got into Graham Boland. I don't think Graham was really happy about that. It was kind of like what I was talking about with Alex earlier, where the guy was already on the bottom, and Keegan just kind of found that one tiny little hole and that was there, and he put his car there.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I think it was back-to-back incidents that Keegan was in. And that's one of those situations where, the point that I had made was, yes, you got a nose there, but you're not really going to be able to enter the corner when you're on the, on the apron line, down on that line with, virtually no arc off into the corner. And then Tim had mentioned, not only just that, but, we're in the opening 60 laps of this race. I think it was a move that Keegan regrets. And at the end of the day, works out for him because he gets a decent finish out of it, but he was not making many friends, and Keegan doesn't have any sort of a reputation to my knowledge and from what I've seen over the last few years of being somebody that's kind of hot-headed or reckless. So I think it was just a case of him getting a little bit in over his head, and I'm sure he regrets those.
Yeah, I think his reputation is to drive clean. We saw that at Homestead with Novak for the championship, and a very clean driver, and so it was a little out of character. That's certainly why he probably regrets that. But next, lap 56, caution. Among those involved on the front stretch were Tierras and Malik Ray and others. I think maybe 10, Boland, Schoenberg, Sheehan, among others, and everybody pits.
Yeah, and that was kind of our de facto Dover big one, if you would. And talking about how he went those first 30 laps and change green and starting to think, okay, well, maybe this race is going to go green. Then you come back and you have a handful of caution flags in a row. Granted, the race only had 4 of them in total, so that's not bad at all. And I think that's kind of what we were expecting. But now we're getting to the point where guys are junking cars, and now we're thinking, all right, well, maybe this race is going to get a little bit out of hand. And I think the timing was fantastic because, of course, as we'll talk about, that kind of set us up for a great long run with strategy to the end.
Right. Leahy took 2 and the lead off pit road. Tian, no tires, kind of reminded me of that other race where he stayed out and kept it for a while. But anyway, back to green, lap 61, a bunch of intense racing. Eventually shakes out to be Ottinger, Alfala, Keister up front.
And now, you get to the point where, those are guys that get out there and lead laps. Colin Keister, of course, talking a lot about him as of recently and the success that he has had. And, he went out into this race and led 53 laps. So that's, was second most to Ray. And I was kind of looking at, this is kind of maybe Keister's breakout point that he's kind of feeling himself. And then you got the veterans up there as well. Even guys like Chris Shearburn for a point were up and into the conversation towards the end of the race as well. Keegan Leahy obviously leading laps also. But honestly, there was a moment I'm thinking that Colin Keister had a real good look But of course, Ray Alfala got out in front a little bit after that, and it was tough to catch him in the clean air, obviously. And Ray was making some funny tweets about that as well this week on the social media stuff. But it came down to the strategy, because I think they realized, listen, Ray checked out. We really hadn't seen anybody be able to get that far away on this kind of a track in a while on a green flag run, I think, that quickly. So they looked to strategy to try to make it happen, and they about convinced me, because I thought Ray was in trouble.
Yeah, Nick Ottinger, Keegan Leahy in the mix up there as they went through that green flag run. Lap 98, at that point, Alfala was pulling away at 1.6 seconds over Keister, who had reclaimed second from Leahy. 57 to go, green flag stops start happening. Keister first pits with the 53 to go. Then Alfala low pits on the next lap. And that kind of set him up with that, that kind of strategy.
Yeah, and I think that, Ray's decision to pit was, he was kind of forced into it, obviously, because, he wasn't one of the first drivers in. And that cost him track position. The short pitters came from behind, and I think I had to mention that maybe Ray Alfala's return to victory lane is not going to happen tonight. And of course, put my foot in my mouth, because it ended up happening, with some time to spare. But I was concerned not with, I think he was like 3 or 4 seconds behind the first couple of cars that had pitted. I wasn't really concerned about the time wise, because obviously he was about 3/10 faster a lap. But I thought the traffic was going to be more of a headache, because we talked about, Ray getting out into the clean air and checking out. I thought that maybe he was going to struggle in the dirty air, but obviously we saw the cars that pitted later that gave up the track position, cycle through, and they didn't seem to be struggling to make passes.
Yeah, and there was a few cars on a separate strategy where they were pitting more often for tires. Conti, Lyon, Clampett, Duvall, Vincent, I think, were part of that. And for a while there, I thought Mike Conti was I thought he was going to win it, the way the strategy was playing out. Tell us what those guys were trying to do.
Yeah, so, the way that this one shook out is you were kind of on the limit with that caution flag and the restart happening just kind of within 167 lap race. So obviously outside of a position to be able to go all the way on fuel. But, we always see, and maybe not guys like Conti. Conti was, a top 15 car, I think, pretty consistently over the course of the night. Those aren't really the guys that you expect to be trying to stretch things out, but it's just kind of hedging your bets. You're going to have the variance in the leaders. They're going to do their pit cycle. It's going to be maybe a 5 to 10 lap window top to bottom. You're always going to have cars go before, and certainly you're always going to have cars try to stretch that out later, trying to catch a yellow. And I think, fortunately for the race, because I tend to enjoy races where the strategy can play through, is this one stayed green and maybe didn't benefit those guys, Conti and some of those other names. They ended up being 10 seconds, 9 seconds back, I think, by the end of this thing, outside of the top 10. But went for it, and it ended up cycling through, where obviously the guys up front with the track position benefited, because not only did Ray have 1.5, 2 second lead, whatever it was, out in front, but by the time you got back to where those guys were before that cycle began, you're talking about 7-8 seconds. So at that point, I think they were kind of forced into trying something different.
Yeah, and if they caught a caution the right time, it might have worked out. But as it went through, Keister was fast, Garrett Lowe, down to 12 to go. Lowe gets by Leahy for second, but Alfala had a nice gap at that point. As they got down to the end there, Kane Cook gets to the podium, past Leahy, and Shearburn makes it the top 5. But Ray Alfala, he gets that win done, and the drought is finally over, as they say.
25 races since Ray had been in victory lane. And of course, while all this is happening, every time Tim's talking, I'm going back at my notes, try to double check things. And we talked about it when he was doing his burnouts, the fact that, this is a guy that everybody knows. He's been in this series since 2010, and he has won a race every single year in this series except for last year. And of course, he made a point when he got booted to the Pro Series, winning a bunch of races, winning the championship, and that he is still very good. I just don't think this package kind of allows him to, maybe show those strengths. And you can kind of, maybe relate that to Jimmy Johnson if you wish. But a 25 race winless drought, the longest he's ever seen, and he can now say he's a winner in 10 of the 11 seasons he's competed in. It was also his 25th career win, which, as we all know, still by far and large the most in series history.
Yeah, I'm sure he's happy to pad that number a little bit, but really to get the monkey off the back, I mean, he had to go through the Pro Series again to get back in here and to show he's got it, and to be, one of the definitely the fastest car out there. I was telling the guys, what was the quick, summary of Atlanta? Well, Ray was fast. That was a summary.
Yeah, and we saw as well a couple of weeks back, where Ray actually started on pole, and he thought, okay, well maybe this is it at Dover, and it just fell apart. I mean, it was not good after the opening lap and a half. So there was that concern that okay, Ray's fast, but is he consistently fast? He only led 9 laps in Dover and finished 30th or something. So it was the opposite. I mean, it didn't have a bad Q effort, but it's not like it was, Ray by a 10th at the top of the board like it was there. I think the race pace was the big thing. And, Ray's frustrated. I mean, he doesn't like running around in the back, and he puts a lot of work in when he can. So I think it was a good return to form for him. I'm curious if he's going to have speed on some of those shorter tracks. I mean, you can use intermediate speed to be successful just with the number of them that we've seen on the calendar. I still think he has a lot of work to do, but this was obviously a huge milestone in trying to get back to where he wants to be.
Right, bumps him to 9th in the points. That's a good starting point for the next race. But Keegan Leahy is the leader of the points. Ryan Luza, Garrett Lowe, Zielinski, Conti, Ottinger, Brad Davies, Jake Nichols in 8th, and then Ray Alfala 9th.
And hopefully on the as well for our pre-race stuff, just because there's been so much happening, is we're going to be trying, at least we're trying to implore that we get a little bit of longer pre-race stuff, because we haven't been given the opportunity to really go into the point stuff. And I know this week, I guess I should say, last week, yeah. I'm thinking the race was just this past Tuesday. It's weird, but we would start talking about the relegation concepts and all that. So guys that I'm looking at, you mentioned Ray getting up to P9. Jay Mullis is somebody, but Zach and Novak is not even a top 20 car. So those are probably going to be the topics that we're talking about when we get off to our next race here in about 2-3 weeks. So you're halfway down. So, I mean, anything can happen still. But, I mean, there's a lot of big names that I think are very disappointed with where they sit. And, if I look at my top 8, I can't really say that anybody has shocked me. But I will say pleasantly surprised, Garrett Lowe, Brad Davies, and Jake Nichols, 3 guys in the top 8 that if, I just had to do a fantasy top 8 at the top of the year, I don't think I would have put them in this early. So those guys have really been doing good. And obviously they're going to try to transition that into the second half of the year.
Okay, so looking ahead, there's no racing in June. So what's the story there? Why is there a gap?
Well, obviously, I think they wanted to add an extra week. I mean, obviously, we try to schedule these around the new builds, but I believe it's a combination of just we have the All-Star race, and I believe, I'm not 100% certain, but I believe we will be covering the All-Star race. In the past, it had been kind of an event that actually, speaking about Ray a lot, had organized, but that's actually, what our expected date would be, the 16th. So that's technically a race. So we're really only going every other week. But that's because iRacing is actually sanctioning the All-Star race. It's an actual event. It's not a community event. But I think we're going to broadcast it. Not sure. And then as well, we do have the new damage on the Cup cars. So I'm thinking they may have wanted a bit of a buffer there in between points races in case that needed any patches.
Yep. And it's changed how we race. So we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show with the new damage model. But yeah, next on the point schedule, looks like it's Indy July 1st.
Yeah, and the way that as it gets to the end of June here for Indianapolis is, these are tough tracks. I mean, I just talked about kind of the trivialness of intermediates, and if you have speed at those tracks, you can find success, but I mean, it's not going to be a walk in the park. Not only do we have Indy, New Hampshire, Michigan, Watkins Glen, Daytona, Darlington. So, I mean, you've got all kinds of different racetracks. There's really nothing similar to one another in the stretch of our next 6. So I would actually say this is probably the most difficult part of the schedule.
All right. Well, it's been fun, Evan Pasoko, talking Coke Racing. Tell the listeners to finish up with what's going on with you personally. What else are you doing besides the Coke Racing these days?
Well, actually enjoying some time off now that, of course, NASCAR and IndyCar and all that have returned to their actual racing as of this weekend. Obviously, we're not doing any of the stuff with Fox and all that. So, we did like an event 50 days in a row, I think. So right now it's just the Coke Series every once in a while. Of course, I always do the Real Sim Racing Full Throttle Cup Series broadcasts on Monday nights at Race Spot. Those are at 9 o'clock Eastern. And just special events here and there. So, always looking to be involved. And I'm actually using the time off to race a lot more on the sim. I just got some new monitors that I was actually finishing hooking up about 30 seconds before I jumped on here. So that's why I was about a minute or two late. And I'm thinking about running the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And I'm not a big road racer, so it's going to be a disaster. But I've been practicing and looking forward to it.
Okay, very good. Well, we're happy to have you. We'll hit you up for the All-Star event, and we'll talk then.
Perfect. Sounds good. We'll see you guys then.
All right. Thanks, Evan. All right, let's get right into topics. Who's up first?
I believe that is me. We have an article by Tanner Watkins making the case for sim racing, and he kind of touches on a subject that I think a few of us have talked about, maybe even on this podcast, but kind of how iRacing and sim racing in general caught kind of a lot of flack for some of the negative stuff that happened during the Corona deal, and he kind of just expresses kind of what we're all thinking, like, it's kind of not their fault. But he says when NASCAR rolled out the Invitational Series in March with IndyCar and other forms of racing following shortly after, the idea was to bring the stars of your favorite racing series together for some sort of exposure during the time periods when they should have been on the track. Was it going to be perfect? Of course not. Imperfection has been the theme for 2020 across all facets of life. The product wasn't quite comparable to his real-life counterpart, but at the same time, sim racing provided the racing industry with value and opportunity in a time where most sports had little to add. And that's exactly it. Like, iRacing did exceptional through all this. I mean, you got to remember they were running all these events that popped up out of nowhere during COVID. So most of them aren't in the office either. They're having to do this stuff remote. They can't do it any better than anybody else can, probably. And so, yeah, they did incredible. And so when the stuff like the Kyle Larson thing happens, you can't really, it has nothing to do with sim racing. If it would have happened during a regular race, it could have happened the same way. He could have said on the radio, a fan could have picked it up on a scanner. And that would blaming iRacing or anything else. That's like him getting out of the car and blaming the car for what he did, or the after effects of it. So, just kudos to iRacing, and agree 100% with this guy. It's a longer article, worth the read, but it's kind of more of that, more of just iRacing. You did good.
It reiterates a lot of things we've already said in several of our previous shows, that, there were some growing pains, but it was overall an extremely wonderful time for iRacing and sim racing.
I love it because it's good to hear somebody else say the same thing we've been saying, just to give a different perspective, from a different person. This is open-wheels.com. They have a great website that they put up racing articles on.
So we have been talking about local businesses. I thought we covered this last week, but I guess not. But there are local businesses, and not just local businesses, but sim-related businesses that are purchasing billboard space at Hickory Speedway because it's going to be scanned soon. One of the sim rig companies is on there, and they still have some slots available. In fact, I shot them a tweet. I'm gonna see if we can get our name in there, depending on the price. So it's pretty neat. It made me think of something else as well. It is nice to have historical ads, but why can't we also go ahead and add stuff that just some billboards that are bought just for iRacing is another revenue stream for iRacing.
Okay, you got that slippery slope there, though. I want it to be reasonable, though, if they're going to do that. I have no problem if they sell ad space and they present that in a race on a billboard, but I don't want to go into the Charlotte Motor Speedway one day and everything is red because Coke, it's now the Coke Speedway or something. And the walls are red and everything's red and it's all Coke everywhere. Coke, 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 Coke. I don't want that.
That speedway already exists. It's coming soon.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I think it's a good idea, but I have a feeling this ends up like what you're saying, Mike. It ends up, you start off with billboards, and then I don't know if you guys are, if you look at the European like hockey teams and things like that, where they go overboard with logos on their jerseys and things like that. Like, you just don't want to have it. When you load into the sim, is it going to have more sponsorship because, they paid a lot of money, so can we put it here? Just like, inquiring about it, and then it all of a sudden goes there. I think what they're doing right now is probably where they should stay, and maybe down the road, if they need to generate something, maybe they can, if it's even plausible to do. Like, I don't know how many of you guys pay attention to the billboards. I don't really see them when I'm driving for what I'm doing, but
the one that I noticed the biggest change was Dover, because it's right there over the track.
Yeah, and you're going to get that, like, next week when we were at Sonoma, you're going to get, when you go up over the hill, you'll see that over the bridge and things like that. The ones that you go over, you'll notice, but I just, maybe subconsciously I see it, but I don't think of what those ads say on the outside of the track.
I like the way iRacing does it. It's a moment in time. It's the day they scan it. If whatever billboard is there, that's going to be in the scan. And that's the way it should be. Just like the North Wilkesboro is a moment in time, and they recreated it on some day in 1987. So if some sim company wants to buy, a billboard at Hickory Motor Speedway the day before they scan it, well, great. Let Hickory sell those spots and let Hickory, Motor Speedway make that money. I don't think iRacing is making the money in this situation. The track is selling the billboards, knowing that iRacing is coming to scan it, and that's the reason they're able to sell them.
And that is definitely a good positive of having it actually be bought at the track, is that's more money for the tracks who are having trouble staying open.
I like the way the money flows, I guess is the way to say it.
So, looking at our next article here, it's actually a Twitter from Greg Hill post. It was revealed just before the build, but North Wilkesboro got another addition at the build for an addition of 400 green balloons for the authentic First Union 400. So just a nice little addition in the background. It's kind of like what's the tracks like? Is it Daytona that has fireworks and stuff after the win or something at night? But it's just another nice thing that they have in the background here.
So it looks like the balloons lift off just as the cars leave the grid. So as you go off the grid and pull into turn one, look over to the left, you'll see all the balloons rising into the sky. Now, I haven't bought the track yet, but when I do, I want to get in the blimp, and I want to be up in the blimp as the balloons are released and watch the balloons come up at me.
That'd be funny.
All right, let's talk NASCAR Legends. We got a schedule. We got another video from iRacing, and it was just as good as the video from last week. It was, at first I thought it was the same video because it kind of has the same footage. It's like a different cut of the video from last week, I guess is another way to say it. And they do showcase the green balloons.
Well, they used more footage than that. They've redid some more footage from the thing, but it's well pieced together like it was last week's, where the transitions are seamless and it told a story, and it was great to another hype video. Like, this is another way of selling more cars, and they really knew with this build what to do to get more people interested in these cars.
Well, guess what? It worked because I didn't buy just one car. I bought both.
Same. I bought both too.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great video. Like you said, the way that they show the original footage, they cut in iRacing footage of the same action, like going through turn one or whatever with the same car, and you can't even really tell the difference. It's crazy. So we got a schedule over for the 13 weeks. Remember, there's going to be a week 14, so it's a 13-week season. What do you guys think? I'm going to read off the tracks. Old Daytona, North Wilkesboro, Richmond, Darlington, Rockingham, Martinsville, Charlotte, Phoenix, Michigan, Watkins Glen, Pocono, Talladega, North Wilkesboro.
You know what I seen that they don't have on there? Darlington. Oh, shit, they do.
No,
Sorry,
it
I'm
is
bad.
there.
Fourth
Yeah,
week.
week 4. Okay, so word of warning. This car is extremely hard at Darlington. Extremely hard.
I was telling him, so that was practice for a race last night, Tony. I only made it halfway through the 100-lap race before I wrecked myself out right in front of the leaders and took one of them out with me. But there was basically a cushion developing at the top of the track, like a teeny, like it was only a probably 8-inch wide rubber strip right up against the wall. I mean, it was like old Darlington with the old cars. They were running right up against the wall, half sideways.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. It was really cool. They look almost like dirt cars. And that's Tony during practice. He goes, these sort of things are kind of like driving dirt cars.
Now, you're saying that, Chris. Does that have anything to do with the new side draft parameters they've put in this? Or that has side force?
No, because this is a Darlington. Yeah, I don't think there's too much. Yeah.
Yeah, but it would still have aerodynamics that might... I mean, obviously those cars are all mechanical grip, but I'm just saying maybe it has something to do with that.
Well, when you hear about the real life cushion, what's happening there is there's actually an area of high pressure next to the car because the air is being squeezed up against the wall, and that's actually pushing the car off the wall.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and see, so yeah, it might actually have something to do with it. Like what you're talking about, Greg, might be leading to the being able to drive the car that close to the wall sideways, which is why or they're able to leave that really dark, thin line right up against the wall.
Well, was it fun to drive it that way?
It probably would be if I had a lot more experience in that car before going to Darlington. That kind of sucked, but yeah, I mean the car's a lot of fun. But man, it was too much.
Frustratingly fun. No, we were cursing and swearing a bunch there Tuesday night in the practice.
I want to tell you about my runs in the car. I got the Monte Carlo, got it painted up thanks to Bobby, and I ran some hosted stuff. I was running Thompson with Justin Allgaier and a bunch of guys. He's a really cool guy, but it was all caution, and there was always somebody wrecking, so it just never worked. And then I ran the Daytona Week 13 stuff, and boy, that's fun if you can survive the first couple wet wrecks, and keep it going. But the way that thing comes off turn 2, you go right up against the wall, and the car just hooks to the left down to the infield, and you got to kind of wrangle it back to a straight line. It's crazy, the rack and pinion steering and how loose it is.
Almost feels like you're floating, kind of going around there. Like you think you got grip, but it doesn't really feel like it. But then it's there. But then my brain was going in total overload. Like I never watched these cars race. I don't really know anything about them. And I was super excited. I still am super excited. They're hard as hell to drive. But that was kind of my feeling. It's like it just kind of floating. Like those springs never really settle. They're just in constant motion no matter what.
I think what you're feeling is the air flow going underneath the car. See, we're so used to these NASCARs that are just stuck, with no clearance, and they're just sucked down like a vacuum onto the track. And these cars are just floating up above, like you say, and you're on this cushion of air, and the springs, like you say, don't settle.
And I'm pretty sure they would have had a lot more air pressure in the tires too, and that would also be a car pre-power steering too, right? There wouldn't be any power steering at that point.
And the tires feel really good too. I don't know what tire it is or whatever, or is it really a radial? I have no idea.
So talking about another car, another release for season 3, they put up a YouTube video, the BMW M4 GT4. Now, when I saw this, I was like, who cares? I'm ignorant, and I really don't care too much about road. So I was like, who cares? But I watched the video anyway, so I had something to talk about, and I was actually blown away. Not so much by the car. To me, it just looks like kind of every other car out there. Like I said, I'm ignorant to the road stuff, so take that as you will. But the beauty part about this video that I really loved is they show you the scanning process of the car, and scanning the motor, and it's different than what we've seen with the cup cars, and they put the baby powder and stuff. They stick all these little point of reference stickers all over the car, and they scan it, and then they show you kind of like as they're scanning, and it morphs into what it looks like on the sim. That was really cool. That was a neat video. So kudos to those guys for kind of giving us, another glimpse into that part of their world that we only ever get to see the end product.
It's crazy to watch him scan it with the handheld scanner. It's like this big thing with two round things poking out of it that have. It kind of reminds me of a supermarket checkout where you have the laser scanner and it kind of does a laser grid onto the car, and he's just kind of waving it around at the engine compartment and just kind of smothering with this ultraviolet light or something. It's crazy how it looks.
It's the part of the video that got me too. I enjoy watching how they did that scan, but the sound, like this, for some reason, the sound of this car seems a little bit different. And obviously, with the new audio, it could be part of it. But they did a really good job with the engine noise and the way that the production value of this video is done to amplify that. Because the car sounds like it should, like a meaner car. It doesn't sound like a generic sound like some of them have.
Oh yeah, and lots of in-car camera here, racing with another one of the cars, and just so you can hear that sound, and it is beefy.
It's definitely another example of the fact that they are updating the road side of the service as well as the oval. I haven't bought either one of the GT4s. I have run around in that TCR for a while, but it's becoming a popular class because it's not. The setups on them are also just not as complicated as they are when you jump into the GT class, the upper GT class, or the LMP classes, which take an engineer degree even in iRacing.
And speaking of that new car, the new wherever I was. The Road America graphical update. Bo Albert, I believe his name was. Yeah, Bo Albert on YouTube put up a side-by-side video showing before and after the update. And, I mean, to me, honestly, the only thing I noticed right away is that the new looks way darker. But when you start kind of looking a little bit deeper into the video, you notice a lot more of the details. Like the track looks darker, but also the grass next to the track has a lot more detail, and the dirt next to that has a lot more detail, and it has better color. So, what do you guys think of the new updates? Obviously everything with the new stuff looks way more realistic, but I also have noticed, like I said, that darkness, and I think it's the kind of related to that overexposure deal that they added and slider you could adjust. But to me, a lot of times it just ends up being too dark.
The reason it looks dark is because there's more depth to it, is what you're trying to get at there. The image will come off a little bit darker because it's more defined, whereas before, that's the old track. Like that track was, I want to say that track's been on this 8 years or more. Like it's one of the first road courses that was after the original stuff, so that's a pretty old build, and it was more of a flat, generic build, whereas now you've got defined depth of the grass, and the world has more, there's depth to the environment. I just think they were just updating the track, kind of like what they did with losing the what's the one track, the Lime Rock, when they updated that. It kind of just brought it into this century feeling, right?
Lime Rock was a completely new scan, actually. This is just a graphical update, but it's a pretty considerable graphical update. And just like at Dover, the overpasses have definitely changed. That's the easiest thing for me to recognize because you use them as brake markers and such.
I think the track surface color has changed as well to be updated. That's That's what this side by side is showing.
They changed the surface, the signage, as well as a lot of trackside objects, and even the trees and curbing. They updated all of that.
And probably one of the reasons they didn't rescan it is probably because nothing has happened to that track since then. There's no new pavement. There's just, just new signage and some updated. Maybe they've raised it, like changed the depth of the curbs and things like that too. So they got a little bit more stuff done.
And Lime Rock was actually completely reconfigured since the last time it was scanned. Are we ready to dive into the big one?
Well, let's go into a video first that iRacing posted as like a tease on the day of, right? It was on the day of the build coming out.
Right.
They basically summarized all the big points of the build, whereas like the tracks that they've done, the cars, and they finally showed you the damage model of the cup cars and the cars that they've added the damage model to, which was nice. It's just when I first saw the video and I was like, 3 minutes of what are we going to see here, and the amount of stuff just with that, without any of the little minor things that you read in the build sheet and stuff, this build is just amazingly done.
There's so much content. I mean, there's so many different cars, so many different tracks, and then all the other stuff that we're going to go through. It's just, I feel like it's the biggest build ever. I don't know how to quantify that, but just since I've been talking about it, there's just so much. Let's get into it. All right, so we're going to talk release notes next. I got the first section. Beta UI. That's a new loading screen. And let's see what else. They give you a percentage of completion for loading. Detailed information on the track being loaded. Displaying other entries in the session. For online races, other registered members are viewable and a projected strength of field is actually shown. So when you launch from the beta, you're getting all this new information. I haven't tried it yet. I need to do it.
And that actually tempts me to start regularly using the beta now, because we also get in the regular interface the progress bar, but it's right there where my floating monitor is, so I can't see it.
I was going to say there's Mike's carrot. That's what we've been waiting for. You got to put something on there that makes it worth using the beta UI.
That's funny. The store, they have a new page has been added to the store with prices. The prices page consolidates some aspects of the store, so you have an easy to browse list of all the cars and all the tracks. A list includes helpful basic information like is price, ownership status, number of configurations, and purchase. Tony.
Yeah, we also got some user-created session additions. A big one is short parade laps are now available. Allows you have a rolling start, with the initial parade lap. You can have that as a partial lap, if you so choose.
That comes in handy.
Absolutely.
Now I want to stop you right there. So I'm at Pocono, and I want to run a race, and I turn this on. I think it's going to start you at like over between turns 2 and 3.
Yes, that's what it's saying it's supposed to do.
Well, is this only available at some tracks? Because when I set the servers up for Michigan this week, it was grayed out.
I'm wondering if it's the tracks over a certain length, maybe.
Well, when you start a race at Le Mans, you start really close to the back side, right?
So it's kind of the
Whereas
same thing.
Whereas when we go to the old Road America, I don't know if they've changed this or not, but when any official series would grid the old Road America, you had to drive the entire track for a parade lap, even in the official series.
So they made a couple of other changes, like easier stuff. So like the options for the cars in the session are now consolidated under a car options pop-out menu. You just click on a gear icon associated with each car. Just some stuff to make life a little easier and a little prettier. And sorry, David, to your question there, yes, there is. It is limited to certain track configurations. I just happen to not put that part into this script.
Brad's Hatch, Spa, Lime Rock, Road America, Road Atlanta, Sebring, Silverstone, Summit, Point, Watkins Glen, WeatherTech, both the old Lime Rock and the old Silverstone.
Aha.
Some of those are actually really short road tracks. I mean, Lime Rock is literally a short track for a road.
It's probably just a test. They're going to obviously keep going on it. Probably the more that people get in the forums about it, probably too, right?
So we got some different things with the paint shop as well. It may now be sponsored by real world organizations. Apparently, I did not read this through very well. We'll probably see this a little further down the line too, where I expanded on it a little bit more. The shop sponsors logo appears at the top of the paint shop, and currently it is Summit Racing Equipment.
So is this what we were kind of talking about? They're selling ad revenue?
It almost kind of sounds like that.
I thought they had always done that with all of the different sponsors that were
what's
selectable.
new?
Yeah.
But maybe it's now something where that's where you're clicking and selecting one. Now it's forcing you to see one all the time.
So they're sponsoring website space or interface space.
Yeah, let me keep going. I'm going to see what it looks like here.
Chris, you're up.
Yeah, so on the member site side, for those that scrape data off of the My Results series page, there's a new address to get those from. So if you're one of those people, you might want to make sure you get that address. On the race servers, open practice sessions can now utilize run groups. This is kind of a big one. I'm not sure I completely understand. I guess previously open practice sessions were limited to having only as many drivers connected at once as the max field size specified by the series. For popular series with small max field sizes, this led to having dozens of open practice sessions running during popular time slots. The display of all those sessions was cumbersome, and it made it overly difficult to directly register for an open practice. And so these run groups are supposed to help fix this problem. And the way I understand it is, so your race practice now will be one.
There's only one to pick.
Yeah, there's the one big server that's going to have everybody in the practice. But then in that practice, there will be broken down these separate run groups. And that run group will be whatever, if it's a 20 car session, it'll have that plus extras, I guess. At least 8 spots, possibly more, from what I'm understanding, depending on the series. And you'll be able to jump in between those different run groups within that same practice session, or within that same, practice session, as long as there's an open spot. So that's the way I'm understanding it.
Yeah, and I actually had to read this one through a couple times, and what I'm also understanding is that, Chris, you and I are jump into a practice, but we jump in like, say, 15, 20 minutes apart. Under the old system, we're likely not going to, get into the same session unless I, find you on my friends list and go through all that. Well, with this here, as soon as you jump in, I can drop down and find your session real quickly, and as long as there's an available spot, I can just move on over to your session and practice with you. That's I think that's what they're trying to get at, and why this is kind of a cool thing.
Well, that, and I think so. Another problem too, like, so let's say I do get on and practice 15 minutes before you do, and it's a busy night. Well, that lobby fills up, and then there's that whole race lobby. That's that race server that's running on there forever. Maybe everybody but 5 people in that server quit out. Well, they have this whole server that's running for me and 4 other people, and you can't get into that server anymore because those spots are taken. And so this will help with that problem. And I also wonder if, so in regular, like the hosted practices, will those be the same way now, I guess, too? So
I
like
hope so.
Yeah, so if we do another team fun practice, it fills up and a bunch of people leave, there will still be open spots, I think.
That's kind of
And if
what it
I'm
sounds
reading this
like.
right, you can be in one practice session, or run group, and well, let's say me and you are practicing, Chris, and then Greg and Tony show up, but there's no slot in the server we're in. But let's say there's 4 slots in one of the other run groups. We could all hop over to that one real quick without having to re-register.
I'm wondering. Okay, so I have a new league that's starting tonight, and he was talking about something different here, where he can bring all the guys that have applied for the group into it, and then there's a reserve list that people can wait and be added in, because there's waiting for certain guys to pay up still. So if they didn't pay up, he'd pull them out and bring others in. So I'm wondering if this is kind of because of this new update.
I think he's just doing that himself manually.
I thought once you're in the server, you take up a spot.
Usually.
So then, if he takes, say it was me, he takes me out, somebody can't actually take my spot. I'm still designated there, right?
So
I'm
did he
not
say-
in it.
Is he going to let somebody join the server before they've paid? Is that what he's saying, or just join the league before they've paid?
Well, you apply for it, and then he was saying that he was still waiting on people to pay up. If they hadn't, he would allow the other person in if they were going to pay up before that person did. It's just the way.
He's probably
Well,
basing that on league applications, then not actually entering the server.
Yeah, so I don't know. It sounds like now they've gotten rid of the fact where you can't be you're not actually taking that stall completely for that 2 hours or whatever in that server. You're taking it just the time you're in there. So as soon as you're out, it opens back up.
Sounds like it, I think.
Okay. Who's next? David Hall, AI Racing.
Well, we also have the couple of changes on the dirt oval racing that we kind of glazed over. There's a change in the water loss, and also the overall starting dynamic track state for non-heat events has been made slightly fresher. And then we'll jump on into my section. We have a lot of new AI additions. They've made it available for the following cars: the new BMW M4, the new Indy Pro 2000, the Spec Racer Ford, and the in the US is the USF 2000 a new one?
That's
Isn't that the other new Indy car? Yeah. They've also added it for the following tracks: Chicago, Spa, Dover, Homestead, Kentucky, Tsukuba, and Laguna Seca. Multi-class races are now gridded by car class. I guess that wasn't happening in AI. In hosted sessions, you have to make sure you set the classes up right, or sometimes they'll get blended. You can also use customized fuel amounts now. These are all things that were available, I guess, in hosted races. And I'm not going to read off this entire list, but there's a lot of new enhancements to the AI machine learning that they've added. You can check the show notes if you want to see all of those specific, but they continue to do as many things as they can to make the AI behave more like a real person.
I'm just so excited about that they keep adding each time. Like, they just keep getting tracks in there, and they keep improving the way it works. Because I tried this a couple weeks ago to build a setup, and any track that this is available now, I'll use to just practice with it. But I love this AI setting, just the way that they're going about it.
Yeah, running a race is still beneficial to see what you have compared to the guys you know that are about the same speed as you, but it is really handy to be able to get in there and practice in a heavy pack and just see how it changes the behavior of the car.
So apparently on this one too, they trained the Audi driver better and all the Cup drivers better, plus the 2 Porsche cars.
And they've also added some AI vehicle enhancements that have to do with tire conditioning. It probably made them a little bit better than Mike at taking care of their tires.
Maybe.
So we'll go on to cautions here. This was one that I don't know, it kind of surprised us when we read it or saw it. But so now lap cars are able to pit with the leaders on like super speedways and stuff to reduce the amount of caution laps, which is a great idea because there's no need for as many caution laps as we already run in the NIS series, at least for us. So the tracks that have been added for this 3-lap or for this extra or ability to go down pit road with would be Auto Club, Monza, Daytona, Indianapolis, Michigan, Pocono, and Talladega. So it's a great addition to it. They fixed some other bugs with the caution laps of the pace car at the start, but the rest of it, that's a great addition that we didn't see coming.
But it does have some issues that it's causing as a result. If we had it happen to me, not today, but yesterday, because I got caught in an early accident, was running the whole race 12 laps down. But once I had fixed the car, I could keep up with most of the pack and was actually outrunning some of the lead lap cars. So there was a big wreck at some point somewhere where the field was really spread out. And also a lot of people had to stop because the track was blocked. We never got caught back up in time. And because if the pace car hits 2 to green before a lap car can get to the pit entry, he has to let all the other lap or lead lap cars pass him before he can pit. So that's a bug. That's an unforeseen consequence that they'll need to work out.
How do you work that out?
That's a commonplace in NIS.
Well, yeah. Well, it's even worse. It's even worse now because, like I said, the pit opens for everybody, but I was not allowed to pit because there was about 7 lead lap cars behind me, and but I had not made it to the pit yet because we didn't catch up. And as soon as it turns 2 to green, it starts sticking all the lap cars in the back.
Yeah, I just think people are going to have to learn how to pace is the answer to that.
Well, I've mentioned this before, and I'll say it again. I wish they would just. I do like how fast they have the pace car going. It's kind of funny because I was saying slow the pace car down at Martinsville, but they actually sped it up at Michigan, and it's nice, because you have a lot of space. But why can't they make the pace car wait until the majority of the field has passed, or particularly until the leader is close to catching him before he pulls out? That would help with that, son.
Well, because if you read that, it kind of says they did to that. It said fixed an issue where an additional caution lap could be added if the pace car is before the line as a leader crosses the line.
That's actually just making it give everybody a longer amount of time. I guess it's making it take another lap around. What I'm saying is just have that pace car wait until the leader's in turn 4 to pull out.
Yeah. All right, let's keep moving. Penalties. Drive-through penalties are now in place. The incident count black flag penalty has now been changed from a stop and go to a drive-through penalty. So it's no longer stop and go. If you're in a hosted, an admin can do drive-through penalties. You can also, getting a pit speed or other pit lane penalty while serving a drive-through penalty will still clear the drive-through penalty, but now the driver will have extra penalties that will be incurred during the process and will need to clear those separately. So you don't want to speed or you'll end up coming down again.
I think that was a much needed thing too to fix that penalty system that they've added.
Well, I'm glad it's not a stop and go. I'm glad it's a proper drive-through. I think that was needed.
Well, physics side was pretty small this time around. Just some side drafting parameters have been improved. I know we've been talking about side drafting or lack thereof, so that could be a very welcome change. And the big one that we've been talking about for a while, this is not new news, but the tires, the limited tire sets are now available. And we covered that pretty in depth last week. So we'll just kind of, it's there. You know what cars it is, trucks and down on the oval side. I don't, oh no, there's some road stuff there too. A few of the cars: Austin Martin, Audi GTO, Cadillac, CTS, Corvette 4GT, Mustang FR 500, Nissan GTP, Solstice Radical, and the Spec Racer Ford. The parameters have been updated to a new archetype that should improve racing for them. And the interactions between the tire and rubber on the track surface has also been improved.
David, obviously there's no races for any of the GT cars. Have you tried any of them since the build?
No. Well, I've been running around in the Radical, but I only run it usually during week 13, so I couldn't tell you how different it is from the last time.
I've read some really good stuff about the GT tires in the forums.
Well, they were really complaining about them. They were really complaining about them before the build. So if that's I don't know a lot about the way the GT car has been over the whole time that they've had the new model, but it does seem like it's lacking a little bit of grip. But who knows what? I'll have to get in one and try it.
On this list is not the new GT cars. This is more of the classic GT classes.
Yeah.
They didn't do any changes to the IMSA cars or the Le Mans class cars.
I was reading somebody who said the tire model's great. What about damage, Chris?
We have some new cars with the new damage model.
Lots and lots of damage.
There's so much damage. We have the BMW M4 GT4, the Indy Pro 2000 PM18, the NASCAR Cup Series Chevrolet Camaro ZL1, NASCAR Cup Series Ford Mustang, the NASCAR Cup Series Toyota Camry, the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car, and the USF 2000. I haven't had a chance to check it out yet. How is it?
Well, I got a good test of this last night because I got in a bunch of wrecks at Michigan. And I put up videos, guys, so you guys could see the damage model. I think, the video shows it, man. I had one where the front end fell off the car and went underneath the wheels, basically. It was impossible to drive if you got any damage. I mean, you had to fix it. It wasn't like you could just roll around. RPMs.
Yeah, the damage I got caught up, it doesn't tell you RPMs, but I got in such a bad wreck, my top speed was 130.
The RPMs never go down. I T-boned a guy with my engine that would expect, no, seriously. And it was still at 2,000, and I'm just baffled.
Well, I heard that bumper, like, it's not that hard to knock that front bumper off, and that's the exact problem I've heard other people say. Like, you'll knock it off, and then it just gets tucked up under the front tires, and you're just going straight into the wall because you can't steer.
Yeah, it's crazy when it happens because you lose control. You can't drive the car, literally.
And interestingly, if you stick it out and do the whole repair, at least cosmetically, it completely fixes the car. It looks like there's no more damage. It'll replace the bumpers, replace everything, put the wheels back in place. The handling is pretty close. It feels like it's full horsepower, except when I went back out, it was a lot more snappy on me, a lot harder to control, like there was still some suspension damage.
I want to see bear bond and stuff being added.
Duct tape.
If my crew member doesn't have a saw in his hand when he comes off if I got damaged, it's not good. It's not good.
The thing I noticed is after my big wrecks and after I got the damage fixed after several minutes, the old damage model, I would have went out there and would have been slow. But with this one, I was pretty fast still. I was, like you said, he fixed all the body work. The RPMs were still up. I was a little surprised by that.
comparable time? Does it seem? Is there any time difference from like the old one to the new one as far as how long it takes to get fixed?
It takes longer. If you just tap the guy behind you, it can be 30 to 45 seconds of damage.
Yeah, I did that to Tony in our practice race. I was pushing him down the backstretch, and I crinkled his back end.
Well,
Yeah.
it sounds like at least with all the wrecking, it'll be a little less taxing on your CPU because they have and actually, I guess David, right after you got done turning off multi-threading, looks like iRacing's finally going to start utilizing it, and so that's going to be a big deal. I mean, especially in the heavy CPU times like that, where a big crash is going on, there's just a lot of stuff happening on the screen, and the people won't get those. Shouldn't get all those, stops and breaks and drops in frame rate.
Yeah, I had turned it back on because the Oculus Rift software did not like having multi-threading off. So it's back on for me. And it's anytime we had the big wrecks, I didn't have any trouble. And you mentioned the repair times. Basically, if you in the old damage model, you could try when you were damaged to limp around and hope the cautions were timely enough that you wouldn't get a lot of laps down. But like I said, never before was your top speed only 130. I would have simply been unsafe to be out on the track going 130. So most of the time, if you got a lot of damage, you have to fix it, and you're going to go laps down.
Good deal. Well, it looks like the system iRacing is going to utilize half of the available logical processors, so that will be 4 on a quad core system with hyperthreading. So it'll take hyperthreading is basically double of your processor. So if you have a quad core processor, iRacing is going to use 2 of those cores, and they're hyperthreaded, so it'd be times 2 equals 4. So much better than the 1, which it was always on, no matter how many processor or how many cores you have. Yield limits have been added for all physics objects to improve behavior during heavy impacts. Rolling drag and contact friction improved. Wheel tether improvements. So
I found that last night when I got stuck in a car.
What happened?
Don't remember when the video I was stuck in the guy's back bumper?
Oh, yes.
The cone can get stuck in your car now, too.
Nice. So people who drag, and there's a lot of people that like to take that thing out, so maybe now they'll think twice.
It makes a clunking sound when you hit it now, too. Like, it sounds like you've hit an object.
And I have taken damage from debris.
Oh, yeah, you ran over one of our things from the wreck last night. Or the other night.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't somebody end up with the green cone inside the car?
I did, yeah.
That was crazy.
It was during the practice. I did because I learned. I learned the lesson during the practice. And if you're in, it's happened to me before. Actually, in the Porsche LMP car, it can capture it too. And if it's stuck to your car, it doesn't damage the car, but you might as well stick a parachute on your car.
Cone shape is a drag.
Right, let's keep moving.
So, some more graphic updates. There's a whole lot of LOD settings that have been adjusted to help the performance. There's a list of cars. I don't need to read that. There's also some improved lighting for the world, especially when you're in overcast and cloudy conditions. They've worked on some of the ambient levels for the global lighting. Shadows are also supposed to look darker now. They've done some things with the haze levels and adjusted the lighting of haze in cloud shadows. Before we go on, have any of y'all ever hopped in a server with like 100% humidity, or where they have the haze maxed out?
No, isn't that when it goes foggy?
Yeah, it's basically foggy. It's pretty. Reddit League likes to do that every once in a while. You have to basically. It never comes up in the official series, but you can do it in a hosted race. It's pretty interesting.
Terrifying.
They fixed some environmental reflections when using VR in SPS mode. There was also some things that were not rendering stereo properly in the single spot between the eyes. They also fixed an issue where the player's car received cloud shadows from the wrong location in the world, only when driving.
So we'll go to this I think this one is another one we didn't see coming until they put it in, but they have a new auto exposure camera system that they've added to the replay function. So the cameras will now automatically fine-tune the exposure based on the image they capture. The system is available when HDR is enabled in the graphics option menu. There are 2 exposure modes, center and normal. Cockpit, gyro, and roll bar cameras all use the center mode. All cameras, even the auto exposure is all cameras, even when an auto exposure is disabled, now support a manual exposure adjustment with the sliders. I did this with just a photo a couple minutes ago, which is, you can really get some nice picture from it. So it's a nice added thing to the photo mode. The other thing they did was a visual effect in the realistic camera shake inside the car. I don't know, have you guys been on the onboard and seen this shake yet?
No, I'll have to check it out though. But yeah, it'll shake just with the vibration of the car. So
just makes the gyro and in-car cameras more realistic, right? So
right.
And then we were talking about the paint shop earlier, and I obviously went and looked at it. So in the paint shop, there is now, instead of, we were talking about they got the sponsors that you can put on the car, but up in the top right corner of your actual thing there, it says sponsored by Summit Racing Equipment right now. So they're obviously either selling that ad space or giving the opportunity for a company to put their ad space there, or for whatever they're doing with it. So it is there for a space that they're selling, I guess.
Okay, X Audio 2 sound system is now available. You have to go into these options in the sim under sound and switch to it to hear it. It's a modern sound system. The other one we've been using dates back to the 90s, and so this one provides more audio flexibility, better system compatibility, and has more features and effects that we will be working to include over time. Initially, it allows us to use a higher bit rate mixing for cleaner, clearer sounds, and the surround sound audio positioning is much improved. I like it. What do you guys think?
I do too, mostly, but I need a little bit more control of the volume levels because the engine is so much louder now. I've had to turn the game sound way down low to still be able to hear everything else, like TeamSpeak. And I can barely hear the game chat. I have game chat maxed to the top, and I have the engine turned all the way down, and I can barely hear guys talking.
There's a lot of talk in the forums about stuff like you're mentioning. One of the ideas is turn surround on or off to combat that problem. The other thing that people said is sometimes they hear it's heavy on the right, not the left, and that also has to do with the surround settings, I believe.
Yeah, the positioning, I just run headphones, and the positioning is just fine. And the quality of the sound, you definitely hear a lot more of the higher frequencies.
Okay, let's keep moving. Tony, Spotter.
Yeah, Spotter is now more aware of multi-class racing, and it should give you a bit more positive encouragement. Well, I guess if you're running around the track being all frustrated, your spotter's going to give you a little pat on the back and, let you know that you are doing a good job, even if you are running dead last and bouncing off every wall. Renzo's Italian spotter pack has been updated with qualification conduct scrutiny messages, so if you're messing around, they're going to let you know. Variety of new audio samples have been added for Marco's Italian spotter pack, and they fixed an issue where the audio for a Joker lap spotter message was not triggering correctly. They've also done some changes to the race radio, so the drivers and club radio channels are now included in the scanner for crew and spotters.
That's cool. So now the spotter can hear the driver channel.
Does that mean he can interact with the drivers?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. It does say spectators can now hear the radio chatter of all the drivers that are in the same run group as the car they're watching as well, which is also good. So if you're gonna pair it with that last one I just mentioned, it would say that they can just listen in and not interact, because you definitely don't want crew and spotters interacting with everyone else. Just so there's no good that ever comes with any of that. So.
What is the race radio scripting? I saw this, and I don't know what that is.
You're in race, like
Function
like
F10.
Yeah, black box radio.
That's the one right there. That's the black box.
It's just their fancy name for it.
Yeah.
So is that where you can change the what channel you're in and stuff like that?
Yep.
Did they just move where it shows up on the option? Okay, I got it now.
Admin's got some new commands. A new command has been added that will display all drivers and teams that have been disqualified and the reason for their disqualification. That's kind of cool. It's exclamation point show DQs. And this one will be real handy, especially in our events, because people are nuts. A new command, exclamation point clear all, has been added to.
Nice.
Yeah, it clears all pending black flags, disqualifications, and imminent blind penalties for the entire field at once. So no more going around when you're running a hosted race trying to say, oh, who's what, who needs this, who needs that. You just exclamation point clear all, and it just takes care of all of them. And somebody didn't get put a lap ahead of everybody else.
That's what I was saying. It kind of helps that out, because that happens so often.
You get it cleared, and you get it cleared. You all get it cleared.
I feel like Oprah whenever I'm adminning.
David, I already covered this section, so let's move on to Greg. User-created sessions.
And we've already covered the tracks and stuff for this stuff, talking about it, so that's good for that point too, Mike.
So that's it. So we're done. There was one more note about the build, about the GT3 tire updates. Alexander Horn said, we are fairly confident that GT3 tire updates will make the build. If not, they will be in the first patch.
And there is already a patch scheduled for June 8th.
What was the problem that you said there was having today, Mike or David?
There is an issue. There's been a change. They drastically actually increased the amount of regen that the Porsche 919 is getting from braking, but I don't know if they intentionally. I don't know if that's what caused it or if they intentionally changed it. But in the LMP car, you want to run a lot. Most of the skilled drivers run manual boost. They basically want to boost all on their own. They don't want the auto boost to kick in at all. And there's a couple of trim settings that you can basically turn all the way down. So at Le Mans, with the speeds you're running, about the only time that it's still going to auto boost is when you're almost at a complete stop and you're down at the bottom of first gear. So in the old patch, if I gunned it out of the pit lane, it would not run boost until I told it to for turns 2 through 6. Now, even on manual settings, it's burning up 15% of the allotment if you don't activate the boost cancel button.
So basically, it's the boost button's not working right now.
No, the boost button works. What's happening though is it's using a higher speed bottom limit to decide when it's still going to auto boost. Because even when you're on full manual, there's a point where it will auto boost down at the bottom. And what's changed is instead of it only auto boosting up to say 30 miles an hour, now it's auto boosting up to 70 miles an hour, which is causing you to use a lot more boost when you don't want to.
Okay, Season 3 schedule is out. Main notes, the old Pro Mazda is now Legacy. If you purchased it in the last 2 years, you get the Indy Pro 2000 free. The Indy Pro 2000 replaces that Pro Mazda, and the Pro Mazda is no longer on official racing. The USF 2000 replaces the Dallara F3 in the Formula Sprint series. The BMW 12.0 swaps to single make BMW GT4 the new car.
qualifying conduct scrutiny, and
Bad boys.
this is it's a good thing. I think it needed to happen from a lot of the stories we've covered over the past little while about the silliness happening, doing burnouts and whatever stuff, trying to skirt the whole idea of this. So they brought this out, and if you're a rookie or whatever, they're going to give you a little leeway on it. But B class, A class, well, you guys been around long enough. Quit messing around. Put your lap in, and get her done. So, how it works? Furled black flag warning will be reset when leaving the car, reset it to the pits or completing the lap. However, it does not clear the warning. A second violation will trigger disqualification from the qualifying session. So, do it once, they're gonna smack you on the wrist. Do it twice, you're done. You're done. Go to the back of the line.
Well, we had this actually in our race, our race that we made the other night. The one guy was saying, "Why did I get disqualified? I was warming up my tires on pit road, so it works."
That's
Yeah,
good.
Bobby,
I think it's a welcome addition.
Bobby said he actually got disqualified after spinning out on his lap, like making a legitimate attempt and spinning out.
He finished, he spun out, and then it gave him a black flag.
Well, technically, if you spin out and wreck it, you're done anyways. You should be in real life. That would be it.
I like
Not
it.
every spin results in hitting the wall, though.
Yeah, I like it because it gets rid of the silliness. Remember when I ghosted that room with all the real cup drivers, and they're all in there doing donuts before they do a qualifying run? It was a joke, and this will stop that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm all for that. Definitely good. Another thing we got happening is legacy pricing. Now this is, this is brand new with this new update, and it's not going to affect any current members, but it will affect any new members signing on from now till forever. So what they're doing is it's the change that's in regard to just free content only. They're gonna put a little bit of a price on some of the legacy stuff. All the rookie content, all the cars and tracks used for all the rookie series, for everything, will always be free for the new subscriptions, and then some other select content will remain free. I'm not exactly sure what that content is, but a lot of the other stuff will be like the cars will be like $295 and the tracks will be $495 going forward for new subscribers. So anybody that jumped on just before this latest update, count yourself lucky. You were able to get in, underneath that this new paywall. But they did want to point out on here that it says, it should be noted that in our dozen plus years of selling iRacing, they've only made one price change to our content, and that was to drop the price. They've never increased the price of their premium content, even though their costs keep rising significantly. They've always been able to make up for the increased costs with increased growth. But, when they're dropping updates like what we're getting now and, the plans that they have going on for the future, I mean, I think it was going to happen eventually. And this doesn't seem to be, too awful bad. I mean, $3 and $5
Seems fair.
I think so. I mean, if you look at all their legacy stuff that they've been giving out for free, I mean, you could do a lot and never have to, buy any new content. They were giving what I felt was a substantial amount of content for free, and they still are. It's going to be more like when I joined up, or when you guys all joined up, you had a handful of tracks and cars just to kind of get your feet wet. So that'll still be available to everybody, and just give them a few bucks for some of the older stuff.
I just counted. at least what I have downloaded, and I guess everybody should have, there's 17 legacy cars now, not rookie, but 17 that actually have the word legacy on them. That's a lot of cars. And the real key here is this is a price change for people who are coming in. They're not turning around. They're not going to hit anybody who's already in the service and has had access to the stuff before. So this is reasonable, and I think really insignificant as far as a price hike.
I like what they're doing here. Would it have made any of you guys mad if they actually did it to all users? Would it have actually? I don't. I
would have
understand
no
if there has to be
problem
I think I
an
would,
price.
because some of those cars I had actually bought and also didn't get credit for them. If you had them for more than 2 years, you didn't get credit for the new car to come out. I didn't have the newest truck, even though I had bought the truck about 8 years ago.
No, but I'm just saying, like, if it increased a little bit, you're not, because they do this right now, but wait till this is a minor one they're doing right now. What do you think the membership fee might hit in the next couple of years here, or at least in the next year?
Well, I don't see how they could do that. So they'd be like, oh, well, you've had it for free this long, so if you want to continue using it, now you got to pay for it. I mean, okay, sure. I would rather them implement something like this than raise the price of subscription. So if they keep the price of subscription the same, well, that's cool. Hell, I'll even, if they wanted to charge me for, more than what the rookie content is, and my subscription doesn't increase, I think I would still be okay with that, because I probably really wouldn't. I don't run that stuff a whole lot anyway, so for me it wouldn't be too bad. I'd be looking at a few dollars just to be able to play around and stuff that I like, but keep that subscription the same. That's the bottom line. Like, let's keep those numbers going the same, and this is okay.
Where those cars are getting used is in stuff like the Reddit League. We do a lot of the races and random combinations that we have come with those legacy cars, so that people don't have to buy new cars to be able to run in the league.
Okay. In the interest of time, we're going to skip ahead to podcast housekeeping notes. David Hall, you're now technical director and doing recording, and you've enhanced us with some little sound bites and stuff, so you guys might be hearing some new stuff. Thanks, David. Don't forget to check the show notes at the description of the podcast to check our show notes. You can get a link, and don't forget to send stories in by email to iracerslounge@gmail.com. I love the help, guys. It certainly helps. Don't forget we're on the Performance Motorsports Network over there, and check them out. So we're going to skip the hardware, software, and go straight into fantasy.
Mike, did you update your lineup?
I can't keep up. It's crazy.
You keep dropping like a rock.
The constant cup races it's kind of throwing me off.
It's a quick 3 minutes. Just throw something in your lineup. Stay relevant in our fantasy league.
I've fallen to 16th. Oh my god.
Yeah. Just throw anybody in there. Throw like Joey Gase in there. At least you're gonna get some points for that one missing spot, because you're not getting nothing now. But a little bit of movement this past week. Not a whole lot. But we do have some new ones in the top 10. I'll do a quick rundown. Just in time, he's still hanging on to first. But I got a feeling he's blowing through all his heavy hitters, early on in the season. And hopefully if he can, keep a nice strong lead, he might be able to hang on to that for a while. But, man, you only got 10. You got to remember that. I jumped up a couple spots. I'm sitting in second place right now. I prefer to kind of be hanging around the bottom end of the top 10. Like Chris says, I like to pounce. But we'll see. I still got lots of heavy hitters, just waiting for the right times to play them. G.I. Jojo's third, followed by Laird Racing. Stephen Lou Allen, who came back to us. Welcome back, Stephen. He's in fifth place. Carrie Seall 6. Chris Jedi McFly, you are tied for 6th place. Look at that. Smiling Ninja, she's in 8th place. T-Bob is in 9th, and Impossible Girl made it into the top 10. So it's been a lot of fun. There's a lot of movement and lots of participation, and that part is really cool. I love watching throughout the race. You can, follow the live scoring and live standings. So, you can on lap, 230, you can see where you're sitting and like, did I make that right choice? Did I pull that guy from the garage? Was that the right call? And see how you stack up against everybody else in real time. It's been a lot of fun.
This week was rough because it was like watching an NIS race. Everybody wanted to wreck. But I did finally pass your wife, so it's a milestone moment for me.
Well, yeah, she's sitting beside me while we're watching the race, and she's like, I'm ahead of Chris. Yeah. And then she's like, crap.
No more.
We got 3 different types of tracks coming up here, too. You got Atlanta, a hot track on the weekend. Then we're going to Martinsville on Wednesday, and then down to Homestead next Sunday. This is going to be an interesting 3 races.
Yeah, it's trying to stay on top of things. Like Mike said, it gets kind of tough, but they do make it quite easy to make your lineup. And sometimes you just kind of go with the gut. That'll usually lead you in the right place. Bristol, my lord, I tell you, all the beating and banging and crashing out. I really thought my lineup was gonna go right in the dumper, but it looked like it happened to a lot of other people too. So it was a bit of a saving grace for myself.
Oh yeah, mine all got wrecked.
It was all Brad Keselowski too. I went back and watched some of the stuff I was watching after the race. All those races caused by everybody. Like Brad Keselowski was behind every one of those people pushing him into the wreck. No kidding, the Bubba stuff.
If you listen to the podcast, or if you listen to Door Bumper Clear today, TJ was riding Chase's case pretty hard.
Yeah, that one too. That was another one.
Those spotters hold grudges big time.
I still think it's hilarious how we listened to Alex's interview today, and you can tell he's a professional because he speaks in third person. All race car drivers speak in third person, right? Except for these spotters. They all say, I wrecked or I passed you.
Right.
It's weird.
Okay, let's jump to NASCAR iRacing Series results. Kansas, let's finish up Friday Open. I had the worst night. I got wrecked in the first caution, P35. I don't even want to talk about it. It ruined my whole evening. David, you got P18.
Yeah, I didn't have a successful night in any of the Kansas races. In fact, I was on a streak of 5 in a row, counting yesterday's Michigan race of cars right in front of me wrecking. I mean, I'm driving it Mark Martin style. Anybody even has a hint of a run, even if I don't think they're going to get quite to me, I'm just staying high early on. I'm just like, go, I'll pass you later. But then that same person spins right in front of me, and I can't dodge it.
You just can't miss it. Greg, your luck was much better. A winner. Well done.
Yeah, the long runs finally happened and paid off. It was such a crazy start at the beginning. There was all kinds of wrecks, and I kept getting shuffled back because the first couple laps, a lot of these guys build setups and they're running flat out for the first 2 or 3 laps, and then they have no right front by the time you get to lap 10 or so, and then you're running them back down, and then they try and run you hard, and yeah, at the last restart there, I think I had 20 to go, and the guy was hanging on to me, but the further we got, the more I pulled away, and I just had enough of a gap where I could stay away from him, and I was pretty excited. I posted my my video there of me cheering on my Twitch channel, and the setups are they're getting so much better each week, and we keep finding more and more speed, and I'm pretty proud of that win because it's been a long time coming.
Okay, well done. You deserve it. You had a lot of confidence on the show last week, and you went in there and got it done. Sunday Open, David, same story. They wrecked in front of you. So
Yeah, the only reason I was able to snag a P14 is because there was a lot of carnage at the end, and that I was able to survive. It was a 30th place car after the wreck.
okay, Tom Dreiling, he also crashed out. Let's move on to Michigan. Wednesday fix, Tom ran and got P13. He said it was a good learning experience. Wednesday Open, David wrecked out. Different track, but same result.
Yeah, again, let the guys go. And this one was weird. The guy that I let go, there was a car towards a few rows in front of us that got loose and got down on the right on the yellow line and was way off pace. And this car that ended up hitting me was in the second lane and pulled down into the first lane and just rammed the guy. And this was like lap 6. I don't know if he was blind or didn't realize how slow he was, but he just rams the guy and bounces right into me. Car's destroyed. And it's was it new damage model at this point? Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And I couldn't go faster than 130 at that point. Had like what I think 9 minutes of required repairs. Not required, optional. It was 9 minutes of optional, but until I fixed it, the car wasn't able to even hold a candle to a safe speed.
Right. I was also caught up in several wrecks. I ended up P28, but I always got all the damage fixed. Like you said, you couldn't really drive it otherwise. And then it was fast, once I got back out there. But anyway, that sucked. Greg, you also got wrecked.
Yeah, just guys not checking up. They all went into the corners. One guy got sideways, and everybody just piled in there. It was probably like a 10-car wreck. It was pretty big, and kind of interesting to see how the damage model was in it. And I got stuck in a car, and yeah, it wasn't pretty. I just kind of quit after that.
So we were all out early. Tom Dreiling got a P10, was running top 5, got a lot of damage, fixed the car, and a couple of green-white checkers later was able to work his way back a little bit. Our boy Tony Rochette is getting it done. He got the W. He said he led the last 17 laps after short pitting while in 4th. Bested out a World of Outlaw driver, and the first guy to surpass 1,000 dirt oval wins, Tyler Schell. Apparently he was racing. Shout out to Tyler. Great long run car. Thanks to everyone involved. It's a special win at a home track and hometown sponsored race. Tied maybe first in my favorite along with the Indy 500. Ba-bay ding ding, he says. Holy cow. I just opened a ticket. How do we get to a public server?
Got me?
Ah,
Hello.
there we go.
Discord.
Okay, so I'm going to hit record again, and then David, you hit it. David's not back.
He's not back yet.
Where did it all cut off?
Mike was given his results.
We're back up, David.
Okay. Yeah, I started having audio issues right near the end of that NASCAR fantasy deal.
So where should I pick up at? Where should we restart?
Restart the results. I would say just restart the results for that day and just go start talking again. And he can figure it out.
The last thing I have recorded, and I'll cut this part out. The last thing I have recorded is Tom's P10. You were talking about that, and then it started to collapse.
Okay. Let me find that.
It was Wednesday night.
It was cool how it died on my end. It slowly cut out. Mike just kept getting crappier and crappier and pixelated.
Okay,
and
so
pixelated.
Mike sounded like he was getting drowned. He was a robot getting drowned in water.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to start over with Tony's win.
Yeah, the last thing you had said was Tom's.
Okay, here we go. And our boy Tony Rochette, man, I can't believe it. He did it again. He got the W. He led the last 17 laps after short pitting while in fourth. He bested out a World of Outlaw driver who was the first guy to surpass 1,000 dirt oval wins, Tyler Schell. So shout out to Tyler. But great long run car. Thanks to everyone involved. It's a special win at the home track and hometown sponsored race. Tied maybe first for his favorite win along with the Indy 500. Ba-bay ding ding, he said.
We've got to just get him to record that and make it a regular sound effect.
There you go. A regular.
No way.
winner.
This is way more fun having Mike say it every week.
I think it's honestly. I think it's something we should always let Tony do whenever he wins. It's like motivation. Like he can't be on the podcast the week he wins just so Mike has to read his results.
I'm just so happy for Tony after so many bad luck stuff that happened to him earlier this season, and now he's getting all these wins to make up for it.
He gave it all to me, man.
That's right. Let's talk today's race, Thursday Open. I got P13. Elliott Sadler was in our race, the former Cup driver. He was on the pole, actually. He finished third. We had a no caution race. It was green flag the whole way. I ended up doing a two-stopper. Tom Dreiling, who ran in my split, he did a one-stopper. He ended up P9. Tom said did not run up front most of the way, ran out of the fuel on the last lap. He was the last car on the lead lap, but it paid off for him. He had a better run than I did. But, we split strategy. I think most people did two, and there were about 5 or 6 of them who tried to do it on one.
I was surprised at that because most of the early part of the race, I saw only about a 45-lap range.
Yeah, I think he pitted on 49, and I don't know how he did 51 there to make it work.
Yeah, and there's quite a bit of fall-off at Michigan as well.
So I haven't got my top 10, so man, I'm going into tomorrow night with a 13th. Boy, I want that top 10, so we're going to have to get it. We're going to have to buckle down. David, you got your top 10.
Yeah, man, finally. This is my first top split top 10. I should have had one last week, but a certain driver caused a wreck at the end who likes to gripe about everybody else causing wrecks at the end. Still not going to name his name. But, I took too much tape off at the start. Both me and you discussed how we were getting really hot yesterday. So I took too much tape off, and it made the set really tight as well. So on the first run, I just burned the crap out of the right front tire. Put the tape back on, and also made a loosening adjustment. And in the later runs, I was able to run with the pack and started climbing back my way back up. And then there was a lot of carnage at the end again, but I managed to dodge it all and came out P10.
Great run. We were talking about the iRating wall. Have you hit it? I don't know if you have. I mean, with runs like that, you're going to be gaining iRating, and there's no A open going on right now, so let's keep building on it. I think you can get it up a little higher.
Yep, I'm getting up there into that top split. I mean, there's guys that they have better sets. I mean, I'm getting to where I can at least tweak sets and use older sets as bases to build some new ones. And we've had some success there. But some of those guys, they're basically teamed up with Coke Series runners. And so they have incredible resources. And, there is just a point where I am just an amateur. I'll call myself a good amateur, but I am just an amateur. So it feels good to be up there in the top split. But I'll just keep pushing.
All right, well done. Let's move on to final thoughts. Chris Scales.
So missing Old Bastards practice tonight because my wife has taken the rig and she's going to jump on to her first track with actual other cars on it tonight. So that should be a lot of fun. Really looking forward to that. It's seems to be enjoying it so far. I hope she hope it grabs a hold of her like it did me, because it'd be a lot of fun if get to spend more time in iRacing with my spouse. That'd be great. But yeah, missing the Old Bastards practice, which I could have probably used because I have done nothing but wreck those guys the last couple of weeks. So I could probably use the practice. But we do have that our race coming up on the 26th. Make sure to keep an eye on social media for that. I gotta get some more details from Wayne on the fundraiser portion of it, and we need to start putting together some guests. But I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Now, Chris, did you see the post Bobby showed of the new iRacing rig for the little guy? That would just about work for Sam.
Yes, man, that's so cool. Actually, it really would. She would fit perfectly in that thing. But I meant to ask him. I just caught a glance of that when I was in the chat. I didn't get to ask where that came from. I don't know if you saw that or not, but that's such a cool thing. Like, yeah, tiny, like, kid-sized rig next to, like, a Corona when it was such a cool thing to see.
And it's funny when I'm a little guy making well, I'm not making fun of her, but, she's small, especially compared to you. You tower over her.
Okay, get it. Well, I hope she can get it. David Hall, final thought.
Well, you beat me to the punch on the fact that I have taken over working the sound. I have fun with that. I'm a band director with experience in Pro Tools, and so I can drop little golden nuggets in the podcast here in post. In fact, you probably might notice it. We had a technical failure, and we're going to do our best to see if we can hide where it happened. We'll let you guys. We'll call that a little Easter egg if you can find it. Even though I haven't had great success until today at NIS the last few weeks, I have a new milestone in my major series competition, in that I'm locked in after Q1 into the top 6 for the Le Mans race this weekend. So I qualified P4, and so I don't have to qualify anymore, and I'll be in the televised qualifying shootout. They call it the Super Pole, and I get to be a part of that. And so that's a new milestone. I'm excited about that.
All right, get it. All right, Greg Hectus, final thought.
Just getting ready here for a new league that I'm joining. That I joined, the iRacing Stock Car Association League. Starts up tonight for season 3 for them, I guess, and looking forward to it. It's broadcasted, so we'll have that. I have that going up. Posted that on the Tifosi page. You can watch me on my stream. Yeah, just pretty excited to see how this is. It's going to be at Michigan tonight, and hopefully we can do it. It's open sets too, so we can. Hopefully, I can represent the Irish Lounge podcast properly in this one. So, looking forward to it.
Well, you're coming off a big win, so you get it and get it good. Okay, Tony Groves, final thoughts.
Yeah, so those iRacing wives, mine's doing the same thing tonight. She actually had to take an hour nap so she could stay up a little later to get some practice, and they're gonna have a little practice race tonight. That's that. I share Chris's excitement, and it's been a lot of fun watching. She gets so excited over this. She's been having a lot of fun with those girls there. So I hope she has a lot of fun tonight racing and doing her thing there. The aftermath we record tomorrow, so look for it sometime tomorrow night. And I don't even remember what episode we're on. I think it's number 8 this week. But yeah, we've been having a lot of fun with that. I hope anybody that's listening that has listened to it is having as much fun as we're having recording it. Just get some rants out there and just kind of go off the wall. It's a nice little release.
It's the leftover nuggets.
All right, very good. Yeah, check out the aftermath. And my final thoughts is thank you to Alex Bergeron. Good, congratulations. That boy, somebody needs to get him, in a dirt car for real and get him in the World of Outlaws. He can get it done. And thanks to Evan Pasoko, as always, for coming on and helping me dissect the Coke race. Kind of worked out. I actually got wrecked out early Friday night. They had the Coke race, and so I ended up watching it. So it all worked out. Man, this team Tifosi is hitting on all cylinders. Everybody's getting good finishes and even wins. And Greg, you took your turn this time, so congrats on that. My excitement is, I haven't had excitement like I've had in a long time in iRacing as this new NASCAR Legends car, the Monte Carlo 87. I stayed up late last night drinking beer, running it every half hour, trying to get some laps, but everyone keeps wrecking. But boy, when I do get some laps, that freaking car is fun. It's a challenge. And I was running with Alex Bowman in one of the races, Cup driver Alex Bowman, and he had a great quote, and I'm going to repeat. He said, "This is the weirdest, newest, hardest car to drive on iRacing." And I think he's right. So come race with me, and let's get it done. With that, we'll see you on the track. Later. Thank you for listening to the iRacers Lounge podcast. Make sure to go subscribe to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, or Google Play, Facebook, and Twitter. See you on the track. All right, clear title ideas.